All right, so Elon Musk and Tesla just finished up their earnings call, and I'll just tell you guys this: it's a total scam. It's a Ponzi scheme. It's a pyramid. Anyone who listens to this thing, it's pretty obvious. If you haven't listened to the latest earnings call, you can find it on my channel. Check out that live stream, and you'll hear and see many of the comments from our community that, as it goes by, calling out Elon's countless BS. Basically, their earnings report came out, and I think they had a decline in revenue for the first time, which is bad news for them. And actually, the headlines then would say, I'll read it to you guys. It says, Tesla trims car lineup in pivot to AI as annual revenue falls for the first time. So basically, they're just getting crushed out there. And I feel like that they're admitting defeat. When it says here, and this is Financial Times, that their revenue is down and their trims a car lineup, the big surprise actually was early on. They said they're canceling the Model S and the Model X. I was like, what the heck? So I knew they didn't sell a lot of these things, but just to, announce it, it's just a surprise. I didn't hear any rumors of that stuff coming out. It'll be interesting though if someday they cancel the Cybertruck, which certainly could be a possibility, because what it sounded like to me is that he's saying, okay, we got these production lines and we're going to convert them over to theoretically make a bunch of robots and cyber cabs. He promised, I believe he said 1 million a year cyber cabs or whatever, but take all this stuff with a grain of salt. It was pretty crazy because they don't talk about cars much at all in this thing. And then another big news in the earnings call was Tesla agreed to invest about $2 billion in Elon Musk's XAI startup. And that part is interesting to me because I feel like if I'm a shareholder, like a major shareholder in this thing, I'd probably be suing the company. I'm just being frank with you guys, because what you're doing, just think of it this way. Okay, so you're part owner of the company, and big hedge funds or retirement plans or whatever, pension funds will have money in this thing, plus a bunch of retail investors, and you're investing in Tesla. And the idea would be the CEO of the company's got this pet project, private project, doing something else, XAI in this situation. And so you're going to take money from this publicly traded company, Tesla, to prop up this other thing. How does that make sense? Tesla agrees to invest $2 billion in Elon Musk's XAI startup. Okay, so he's using it as his piggy bank to do that other stuff, and then is he then just gonna convert Tesla over to this other thing, or just for example to prop up Tesla? SpaceX, I think they bought like 1,000 cyber trucks from Tesla. I mean, because Cybertruck sales are crushed. They're like, I believe it's either half or 70% down from last year, depending on which numbers that you look at. But it's bad, and it's going to get even worse this year. Here's else. It says fourth quarter profits surpassed expectations despite lower car sales. So what it was is that Wall Street lowers the bar, lowers expectations so they can pass that. And this is but there is lower car sales, right? So this is when you watch the Tesla influencers, and just being frank with you guys, they're going to say, guys, Tesla beat Wall Street expectations, right? And they'll probably skip over the part, well, hey, the revenue's down this year, which is not a good sign. Their car sales are down, again, not a good sign. And you're funneling money to somewhere else, again, not a good sign. And then Elon's like saying all this crap. One thing that really stood out to me was it looks like they are looking possibly borrowing money from the bank. That was kind of weird. They were talking about doing 6 extra projects. I think it was factories, or however you want to call this stuff. Terafab was something, so I guess they're saying, wow, we really need these chips. Here's a quote here. People may be underweighting some of the geopolitical risks that may factor in the coming years. And I think he's referring to would China attack Taiwan someday, just for example, and create a bunch of problems, or is Donald Trump creating a bunch of risks around the world? So therefore, Tesla needs to make their own. It says Musk says that Tesla needs to build a terafab. He says it's going to be a very big terafab that includes logic, memory, and packaged domestically. Okay. My question is, when is the U.S., this is a question from the Bloomberg, question is, where in the U.S. is this fab going to be, right? And these are the kind of things of when you run into someone like Musk. Okay, you got these really big promises. So when is this going to happen? Where is this going to happen? Where are you getting the money? These kind of things. This was also an interesting one. Musk says that Optimus is, quote, completely useless without an AI chip. That's why they need these chips. and it would be like the Tin Man from The Wizard of Oz. So he's thinking about The Wizard of Oz. Pay no attention to behind the curtain, right? There's so much stuff to talk about. He dodged a question, in my opinion, was basically, hey, what do you think about China? Because, China's going to crush you and all sorts of stuff, right? This is from Bloomberg then. Musk says the biggest competition for humanoid robots comes from China, which is very good at manufacturing. Quote, we don't see any significant competitors outside of China, meaning that he thinks that the big competitors are in China, but which is kind of a strange thing because Boston Dynamics that's a real company. They make pretty good robots. In fact, wipe the floor with anything that Musk has. And if you don't know, Hyundai acquired Boston Dynamics. So you got Hyundai money, Boston Dynamics technology. To say that there's no competitors outside of China is pretty ridiculous, right? And then there's going to be companies in Europe and elsewhere. Don't sleep on Japan. If someone's really going to do this stuff, why not Honda or whatever? They had these things years ago. I'm reading through some of the notes of this stuff because it's so ludicrous. Okay, here's another one. Musk says all we're trying to do is make sure we scale to very high volume with autonomous vehicles and a humanoid robot that we can address geopolitical risk. We have to have these robots, guys. We got to do it. And this is the part about the bank situation, which was really, there's so many things in here that were, what's the word to say it? I'll just say this. It's kind of similar to the Trump stuff. We talked about Trump on the channel where any one of these things that you would normally, sink any sort of follower support, but it's kind of these guys are like basically cult follower, or cult leaders, and they have a bunch of cult followers who just blindly listen to this stuff. Because you could take it in the positive way. You could say, oh, Elon said they're going to build a chip company. Oh, yeah, chip company. Oh, Elon said we're going to, go to Mars. Oh, yeah. It's like if you're a complete moron and you just buy into that stuff. And essentially what this boils down to, it really demonstrates the bubble in the market and also just the lack of critical thinking and education in the USA and otherwise. And what it ends up being is people like Musk are a bunch of con artists, and you just have to be just a little bit smarter than your followers who are really dumb. And then the people who are smart enough to know it all is a scam are just like, well, you know what? This guy's out willing to front the scam, and we'll go and play along with it because we can make money off of idiots. And it ends up being just a big Ponzi. I hate to be mean about this stuff, but when you hear the earnings call, and like I said, you can listen to my stream and read through comments. Any sane person can obviously identify this stuff. So this is coming from them. They said, it's from Bloomberg here. Tesla has spoken to banks, and that's what they mentioned. It was a CFO about monetizing expected revenue stream from its budding robotaxi business, assuming they even have a robotaxi business. According to the CFO, Tania, the company also has more than $44 billion in cash investments. That's what they said. And they actually mentioned their Bitcoin went down. They mentioned that also. And then could tap the debt market as well. Quote, we will have a look at a little bit more in terms of how we fund it, whether it's through debt or other means. And that's like rolling out their robotaxi stuff. They keep talking about they need to spend a whole bunch of money. $20 billion is what we're talking about. It says $20 billion CapEx. And then that doesn't include solar chip in the chip fab. So I guess you can spend all your money. I guess. I mean, I don't know. It's they're such on shaky ground over there. Here's a little bit more. Here's what the $20 billion in CapEx is going, and it's worth tracking. And it's so iffy, this stuff. 6 new production lines. The way they're talking is like they're in startup mode, to where we don't have any products. I promise, trust me, bro, we're going to have products in the future. You heard the same song and dance. I mean, at this stage in the game, you're not a startup anymore, but they act like they are. But yeah, 6 new production lines across refinery, Cybercab, Optimus, and energy products, heavy AI compute infrastructure spending, boosting the capacity of existing factories, expanding the robotaxi fleet, and Optimus. He was also asked a question about, I don't know if he's asked a question, but he mentioned it, that he says they're not firing like other companies. So he was mentioning like other companies are laying off. And you have to put this in context. Like if even Musk acknowledges that other companies are laying off, and if anyone could look at the people who are struggling in the economy, do you really think that then people are going to go out and buy your cars or buy your robots or whatever? I mean, do you think that's going to happen? Like, so this is where it's like pretty crazy that you're saying we're going to spend yet more money and invest in all these new products when people don't have money to buy any of your stuff as it is. But he claims, this is Elon Musk's claim, Musk says that Tesla expects to increase headcount at its factory in Fremont and doesn't have any layoffs plans. Okay, so we'll see if that indeed the case. We can hold him to that. Like when's that layoff announcement going to come? Someone points out, here's again from Bloomberg here, worth noting that Cybertruck sales have been slumping and fell nearly in half in 2025 to about 20,000 vehicles sold. So it's, they do sell some, but 20,000 is not really that many. And just to give you like a ballpark kind of thing, like I think Tesla generally lately, I think they're like at 1.8, maybe 2 million cars a year. So if you're selling 20,000 Cybertrucks, it's a very small part of their sales. And also in comparison, I think Toyota's in the kind of the 7 to 8 million cars a year kind of range, something like that. And I think Hyundai, Kia, maybe more like the 4 to 5 million in those range. But things are fluctuating as BYD's selling a whole bunch, and they even asked them the question. It was kind of funny. This was early on. We talked about before, if there's like 90 million cars sold, every year, what's your, taxi thing going to do to that? Are you going to sell a bunch of these things? And he's like, oh yeah, USA is going to be like a quarter of by the end of the other quarter of Americans will be able to get, or half even as high, be able to get into my robo-taxis. Someone in Bloomberg brought up the point, which I hadn't thought about, that was kind of funny, because they were trying to make the case that we only need to buy these little small cars because, it's only one person car or whatever. And from Bloomberg, they say, it's a little strange to hear a father of 14 make a case that cars don't need to be more than 2 seats. I thought that was a really, really good point. But you also have to take into consideration that Elon's a terrible father, right? He's got baby mamas everywhere, a bunch of kids everywhere. And I always tell you guys the same thing. Just think about this. Just from an objective point of view, if I said, hey, there's this guy, I think, was it Elon, like middle 50s, something like that. He's got 14 kids, a bunch of baby mamas, right? Not married to any of these people. And just tweets out conspiracy theories nonstop on the internet. That's what he spends his time doing. And, shows up in public appearances with sunglasses and, whatever K-hole that he's in. Like, what would you call that person? And just telling you who to do, like 14 kids, a bunch of, baby mamas. Just imagine like anyone takes this dude seriously. And this shows you like how ludicrous our markets and our system is, because this is also the dude who like promises, hey, we're gonna fund all the Republicans, we're gonna do these lotteries, you're gonna win $1 million, and it turns out the lottery is like pre-selected winners, then may not even pay that anyway. I mean, it's just scandal after scandal after scandal. And then if you look at his conspiracy theories and crap that he tweets out nonstop, a lot of it's really racist. I'll just be frank with you guys on that stuff. I don't show all his tweets nonstop because it is, we'll just call it mustache party kind of stuff. So you have that stuff. And that's not even the main factor for me for Musk. I'm just looking at it from a money perspective. It's a total scam. Tesla's a total scam. And I think it's embarrassing for anyone in the, in that space to listen to this thing and then, believe or reinforce that this guy's some sort of genius. It's clearly a scam. So that's my thoughts on this. I'd like to hear yours, and I'll catch you on the next video.